Okay, and then this last one is actually not too bad compared to the others that we've done. This is asking for a fourth degree polynomial, but luckily the roots are not binomials, so it makes it a little easier. But we still have imaginary roots, which means their conjugates are also roots. So it says, find the fourth degree polynomial equation that has roots I and 2I. So I is going to be one of the roots, and then its conjugate would be negative I. And then we have 2I, so negative 2I. So there's your four roots, and now I'm going to write them with x's. So in this example, if x stands for I, then I would have to subtract I in order for that to cancel and make 0. In this example, if x is negative I, then you would have to add I to make it cancel to 0. And then the same idea here. If x is 2I, you would subtract 2I. And if x was negative 2I, you would add 2I. And then this is just two sets of foiling. Okay, so we're going to FOIL this one, and then we're going to FOIL this one, and then we'll multiply them together. So this one, if I multiply, I get x times x is x squared. X times I is ix. Negative I times x would be negative ix. And then negative I times positive I is negative I squared. And you should see that the ix and negative ix cancel, so you're left with this, x squared minus I squared. Well, minus I squared. So you should remember that I squared is the same thing as negative 1. So that means that this minus that's outside and the negative 1 that's inside, that's going to look like this, which would ultimately cancel to just a positive 1. Okay? Alright, so that's 1. Alright, let's do this one. Same thing, we're foiling. X times x is x squared. X times 2I is positive 2I x. Negative 2I times x is negative 2ix. And negative 2I and positive 2I is negative 4I squared. And then again, you should see that the 2ix and negative 2ix cancel because these are difference of two squares. You technically didn't even need to FOIL those. You could have just squared the first and squared the last. So x squared, and then I have negative 4I squared. Well, you should remember that I squared means negative 1. So when those cancel, that's going to actually end up being x squared plus 4. So here's the two things I have. And now I'm going to FOIL those to get my final answer. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th. X squared times 4 is positive 4x squared. Inner is 1 times x squared, so that's x squared, and 1 times 4 is 4, and then you should see that these combine. So my final answer is x squared, and this is a 1, so this would be plus 5x squared plus 4. And that's my final answer for this one. So not quite as difficult as the one with binomials.